Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series, our twice weekly show on a Tuesday and a Friday at 5 p.m. UK time. With our Friday shows, this is all about you guys in the chat box, getting your thoughts, getting your feelings heard, most importantly, and of course, getting reactions to those from the chat box and myself. As always, the show is sponsored by Football Prizes, and with what's been going on of late, we have got a very interesting prize for yourselves this week, with, of course, a bit of a retro feel, considering the modern-day Arsenal has tended to annoy us a little bit. And so, therefore, this week's prize is a very good fit for the week, as it is a signed and framed photo of all of the famous back four with Lee Dixon, Tony Adams, Steve Bold, and Nigel Winterburn there as well. There is only... looking at that, we're looking at 18 tickets left. And of course, halfway through the show, we'll be revealing which one of our expert and TGT ambassadors has won the free entry into the competition. It runs out at 7:30 tonight, so you've only got 2.5 hours to get your tickets. So make sure you do. Hello, chat box. Hope you are doing good, doing well this afternoon. Of course, we line up an hour ahead of what is going to be the Kroenke out protest at the Emirates. Were it not for a global pandemic, I would certainly be there this time around. But thankfully, what hopefully I can provide to you is some live coverage a little bit later on in the show. Fingers crossed that works. It might work, it might not work, but our man on the ground is there. So fingers crossed we can have a little bit of insight in half an hour, 40 minutes time to see what is going on, how many people are there, how successful it's looking just before things kick off at 6. The reasons why I'm not there is due to the pandemic and very personal family reasons, associated reasons why I can't actually attend. If it wasn't for that, I would certainly be there today. So apologies that I can't be there, because I'd love to be doing the content there if I could. But yeah, the world's situation means I can't, basically. But anyway, moving on to obviously the reason why we're talking about the Kroenke out situation. I want to know your thoughts and feelings about the situation, because I put a poll out yesterday on Twitter. I didn't know if you saw it. If you didn't, make sure you're following us at the Gooner Talk TV on Twitter. The poll effectively showed a choice in asking fans what they would rather happen. Would you rather see a more open, honest dialogue between the ownership and ourselves as fans? And that includes fan representation on the board, more consistent messages, and a constant kind of coherent picture and plan of what the plan of the club is going forwards? Or would you rather see the Kroenkes invest in the club? And I mean, we'll show it to you now as to what the actual stream was. Let me go onto my social media platform and have a look at what the polls results were, because I believe they were put out around this time yesterday. So we should be pretty much, here we go. Let's have a look. Let me share my screen so you guys can see that. Here we go. Let me stop sharing that screen and share the new one. 2 seconds whilst I just get this up for you. And here we go. There it is. So the tweet, here it is. We'll zoom in on this so you can see it. But over 1,300 people are voting in on this. It's still got 5 hours left if you want to go and have your say, of course. But what I would say about this is that I'm a little bit concerned by the results of this poll. I'll tell you why I'm concerned about the result of the poll, because ironically, one of these has happened. One of these already is happening. We saw it last summer. We saw it the summer before that there has been investment. It may not be as much as what people want. That's why I didn't put an official amount. I didn't put it in comparison. I just put the words invest in the team. And it's frustrating to me that 78.4% of people have voted for the thing that is already happening, that is already happened. For me, if I was able to vote, which I wasn't because of my own poll, but I would be voting for the first option of an open, regular dialogue. It is by far the most important thing that needs to happen from the owner's perspective. We need honesty back. We need constant communication. We need to know what's going on, and we need to be more involved as a fan base in the ownership and how the viewership of the club and the kind of the plan going forwards is. Whether or not that's actually feasible and possible, we still don't really know. Based upon the fan forum yesterday and what the Kroenkes were saying, is that Josh was effectively turning around and saying that he wants to communicate with fans more. He wants to do these Zoom and Microsoft Teams calls more with the fan base to understand how we feel. And also when it comes down to making huge decisions, like we saw on Monday, when the club basically took the future of itself out of any hope of the fans going into it, that they basically did not consult the fans whatsoever, that led to this problem. And ultimately, this is why we need more communication. And it is ultimately why we need new ownership as well. This is why the protest is happening. This is why the protest needs to happen, because the ownership needs to understand further our distaste, further our frustration, and understand the size of it as well. I've seen some fantastic things on social media over the last 24 hours. People in America going to Kroenke stadiums and protesting outside of there. Keep it up. Keep the hard work going, because it's absolutely fantastic. But it really does concern me to my core that people still are on this train of the desperate want of investment. Guys, that's happening. We saw it last summer with Thomas Partey. That's happening. That is not what we need to focus on. If you want to talk about more investment, great. But Arsenal have spent tons of money. Absolutely oodles of cash has been spent by this team. It has been spent incredibly poorly. We know this from where we sit in the league and with how our squad compares to that of other teams and of the losses that we've made when moving on players that we have sold. We don't need necessarily more investment. What we need is better investment. It's spent more coherently and spent better so that the players that come in are going to have an impact, that are going to compete, are going to ultimately also get into other competitors' sides. That's where we need to focus our investment. So we need to, continue the investment. Sure, we're hearing rumours today that supposedly that is going to happen. I've heard it all before. You've heard it all before. We've heard that this is going to happen. But I don't care how much is spent. I want this money spent better. I want it spent more savvily on signings that are going to improve this team and let it compete. That's what we need. It's better investment. We've gone and spent over 100 million in windows prior to this. It's not about investing more than 100 million or 150 million. It's about that millions that are being spent better. Better doesn't mean necessarily more. Better, it means being spent in a more savvy, smart, intelligent way, not necessarily being spent. Because, I mean, you look at the way that other teams have spent and really propelled themselves up the league. You look at how West Ham have spent on certain players and look how they've performed, how Leicester have spent after selling really well. It's not about the necessarily need for that investment. What is more important is that we need fan interaction to be a greater thing. We need this to happen more often. I also saw a lot of people complaining about the questions yesterday, and I put a tweet out yesterday which was effectively, if you had an opportunity to ask a question to the Kroenkes in yesterday's fan forum, what would that be? And I'm going to put that to you guys now in the chat box. If you felt personally that the questions that were aimed at Josh and Vinay, etc., in yesterday's fan forum were, in your opinion, not good enough and it was a missed opportunity, tell me what you would have asked instead, because I can't really look at other questions. I really struggled to come up with this, and that's why I'm relying on you guys to tell me which questions do you think should have been asked. I mean, Danny, perfect question. Should we shoot more? Fantastic question. Obviously, we should have been asking that. What I will say, and I agree with Pablo here, is that Akil did an amazing job at the start of the whole thing. He was at it. He was on Josh from minute go. He did not let them get away with understanding how hurt we feel as fans. That really came across for Akil. Matt Greek says, what money do you take out of the club in fees? That would be my question, Matt. That is published information. You can find that yourself. We know about the dividends that came out, the 3 million or so every few seasons. That's public knowledge. It's not going to be a question which necessarily tells us stuff that we don't or need to know. You can find that out yourselves by looking at the published results from the club. Cayman says, Turkish brought up a good question. How did we get from the Invincibles to here under your ownership? Amazing question. Definitely something that should have been asked. I agree with that. Something that maybe they could consider. I think what they would say, though, is that they wouldn't have been able to predict the investment from other teams. They wouldn't have been able to predict how, like, the massive Russian oligarchs and the American ownerships that have come into other teams in the Premier League have invested as heavily, and they haven't been able to necessarily compete with it. I think that's what they would say. That's not me saying that's an excuse. That's what I think they would ultimately say if we were asked that question. Will Stan ever speak? Ajit, they asked that, and Josh effectively turned around and said that whatever his father says is what Josh says. He said that whatever you hear from me, you can take as the words of my father. That is what was said. That is what we've always been told. That's exactly how it works. And that's the problem. An in-person forum, says Yannick. No, it was across social media and Zoom because of the climate that we live in, obviously. Let's have a look. Thomas says, I was happy with Akil's questions. Perhaps they could have been asked, where is Stan Kroenke? Didn't he feel he needed to apologise to the fans in person? Again, we reiterate this point. Stan is not involved. He's never going to be involved. It's through Josh. Josh is the guy. You can effectively consider Josh the owner at this point, because we're never going to hear from Stan. We're never going to hear from him other than in statements at times which are appropriate. But Josh is the spokesperson of his father. Every time we hear from him, he tells us that you consider his words the words of his father. Effectively, I think he's being set up to be obviously the heir to take over this job, to take over the ownership of the club from Stan. And I mean, we'll keep on saying where's Stan, but I mean, are we going to keep saying where's Stan when Josh eventually does take over? Because I imagine that is eventually what will happen. Pez Guna says it's not so much the questions, it's the letting them get away with the answers. Again, if you listen to it, if you were there, if you watched if you read the transcript, they didn't necessarily let them get away with the answers. They said that they were still disappointed. They said that they felt ashamed. They said all of this. And at the end of the day, it's a fan forum. And if you just go in and attack things, it's not really going to go well. They're probably just going to shut off the Zoom call and refuse to talk. So you need to keep asking the questions. It's not about being abusive. That's never going to get you anywhere. Ariane says, thank you so much for the donation, by the way, mate. Really appreciate it. All this owner communication is nonsense, in my opinion. A great ownership have one great recipe, and that's putting it right. People in charge who make smart decisions, something KSC have not done. You're spot on. And that's why we need to see an actionable change going forwards. We need to see this ownership speak and then act. Yes, it's all well and good saying that they're going to change things, that they are going to be more open and interactive with us. Great, do it. It's all well and good saying they're going to get us to where we need to be. Great, go out and do that. Buy better, sell better, change the way you do things, make people accountable for the actions on the pitch. If Arteta's not the man for the job, and I believe that we need another summer to work that out, if in 6 months' time or 8 months or 12 months' time it's still not working, we've invested, we're not progressing, move him on, get someone else in. That's what we need to see. That's what we need to ultimately show. A says, Arsenal could have hired a world-class manager, but instead hired someone who has never managed a club in his life. And ironically, the manager that has never managed a club in his life did a better transfer window than we've seen from the managers with loads of experience, which is ironic in a way. This is not about the manager. And I think there's people with complexes at this point focusing on the manager. The focus needs to be on the ownership. That's where it should be. Stop being so blinkered and look towards the ownership for our problems. Pez says, now I think once he said it's fair enough talking about racism, but we need... hold on, let's go off my screen. Let me say it again. Now, I think once he said it's fair enough talking about racism, but we need to do X, Y, and Z, they should have been on him. Still don't know why that comment isn't getting more attention. I need to go and check that comment, to be honest, so I don't misquote it. I know Football London released all of the comments from it, so I will try and get that up, and then we'll get a response to you, Pez Guna, on that one. Annoyingly, it's still not on their webpage, which it should be. I don't really know why it's not. Let me try and find it. The full transcript of the fan forum. Hopefully it comes up on the screen. Here we go. Every word. Let me just see. different things talking about this. Here we go. The question was, wow, this is a long answer. What was the question? He says, we can talk about FFP enforcement. We can talk about, are we doing enough at European level to combat racism? But for the stability of the football pyramid and talking about grassroots program that we are all for, we want to make sure we're maximizing those revenues and those opportunities to stabilize the footballing pyramid. So when he says we can talk about FFP enforcement, we can talk about, are we doing enough to European combat racism? Obviously, the club in itself, we've got the Stop Online Abuse campaign. We've got this. Arsenal can't, all that Arsenal can really do in regards to a response to this massive, horrific problem that we've got is to do the campaigns and to try and identify supporters and fans. That's the issue right now, is that the ultimate problem of, when we've got the ultimate problem of racism in the game and racism in abuse and racism on social media, that needs to come from the social media companies stamping it out, doing more to deal with it. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to change. Arsenal in itself, it's really tough for them to tackle this beyond the campaigns, identification of fans, banning fans where possible. That's the issue. That's what we ultimately need to see. So it's trickier from, I suppose, Josh's perspective to come up with something other than saying that. That's what's trickier. The whole fan forum was about the communication of the club's intents of saying sorry. Effectively, that's the idea with that side of things. But we need to be stamping out racism. We need to be doing more to do it, and it needs to come from the establishments. It needs to be coming from the organizations. It needs to be coming from the people that are hosting these platforms that enable this horrific stuff to take place. Thapello says, Tom, would you agree we've had our best window but yet regressed in terms of results on the pitch? In terms of where we are in the table, we've looked to regress. And I think, as I've always pointed out, that it's going to be a case of it's going to gradually level out and then improve. We've seen after Boxing Day that we've seen improvements, and that's hopefully going to be the start of this upturn that will go into next season. Fingers crossed. But in a year's time, we'll see. If we're not progressing, then we need to change manager, definitely. But it's not going to change in a year, as I've laid out many times. Spiral Sam says, I'm hoping these protests get big media attention across all platforms, televised. I'm sure this can make KSE quake. I mean, ultimately, and Omar says, Tom, do you think tonight's protest will bear fruit? I don't think so. It depends what you mean, mate. It depends if you think that the protest is going to make the Kroenkes leave. If that's what you're asking, the ultimate answer to that is probably no. These protests are not going to make the Kroenkes sell. What I hope these protests can accomplish is to further and to just reinstate that clear point that Arsenal needs a new direction. Things need to change, and they need to understand how hurt we are. I honestly don't believe that that this is going to change the ownership. It's not going to get them to sell, but this needs to be a pressurized thing. Whilst it may not bear the fruit that we want it to in regards to a new owner, what we need this protest to do is to continually amplify the pressure on the owners to make them understand that we as a whole, as a majority, would prefer that they left, and that they need to keep working harder and harder to change our minds. That's what it means, ultimately. Let's have a look about this. Thapello says, Tom, are you going to be at the protest, and are you putting a banner up? Thapello, I said at the start of the show, I can't be there for personal reasons relating to the pandemic and family members that are vulnerable that I see. I can't be there and risk contracting anything whilst I am not vaccinated, and whilst family members who are vulnerable are still waiting for their second vaccination. So I can't go. If this wasn't a pandemic moment, I would be there 100%, but I can't be, unfortunately. Mr. B says, let's be honest, AFC will never be the club where with the Kroenkes are in charge. Kroenke will milk AFC till we are the bottom league club. And that's why we need to see action. That's why we need to see change if that keeps on happening. Kelly says, I completely disagree with the breakaway, but UEFA isn't a saint either. You're spot on. What happened to the Man City when they breached the FFP rules? This is a wake-up call to them, and charity begins at home. UEFA are not clean. There are no one that is a good guy in this. The stopping of the Super League was great. It was a really kind of showing of fan unity against that, but more needs to be done. More needs to be done to stopping us as fans getting taken advantage of, being taken for granted, and for being used as a financial buffer. That's what we need more of, unfortunately. Tom says, while I'd love to see that 50+1 fan ownership model, why would any of these billionaires relinquish any of the power that they have? And Tom, it's a great point, and ultimately one that is going to be making it very difficult for this to happen unless stringent regulations come into place across the sport. That's not going to happen, and it's really tricky to implement those as well. Manu says, Tom, please give thought to the fact that Kroenke is a businessman and Arsenal is his business. Our businesses is run exceptionally badly as we let our most valuable assets leave for nothing. This is on the Kroenkes. You're spot on, mate. Yeah, and it's something that needs to change, something that we need to action. Again, it's really tricky because we haven't reached that summer window. We've had this fan forum. The only way that we see change is in the summer, is in the seasons to come. We need to see this actioned. It's not going to be actioned overnight. We need to see this change happening. And hopefully after this week, we're going to see some changes in the form of the summer transfer window, in the form of regular communication between the ownership and the fans. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. Fapello says, I respect that, Tom, but what I would put on your banner if you were to be there, or what message would you put across? To be honest, Fapello, the same message needs to be put across, in that it needs to be the same Kroenke out message, the unity. You can be saying specific things like, please invest. I mean, they already are partly. Please communicate specific messages. For me, it's not about these individual messages. It's about the ultimate one of Kroenke out, keeping the pressure on, keeping the amount of pressure on them so they know that we are not happy. It's as simple as that for me. If there was to be a banner, that's what it would be. It's what the thumbnail is. It's what they're. So you've got my banner in that sense as well. Mr. Farouk says, when you have clowns running a business, expect a circus act. Omar says, I look forward to every Arsenal game, but understand your view. I think that we're going to win. We'll see what happens tonight. Fingers crossed we can get the victory. Jason says, Alicia Usmanov, please come back and buy this club. All is forgiven. Jason, do you honestly think that if Usmanov was in charge, he would not have also gone for the Super League? I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that any club fully owned by the owner that is not in bed already with UEFA like we've seen with PSG and doesn't have a fan model like we've seen in Germany would be going for this Super League. Everton's owners that are fully integrated, and that you look at Mashiri, who was part of Arsenal at one point, I have no doubt if Everton had been invited, they would have also gone for this. It is something that's being missed, and I have absolutely no doubt that if Usmanov was still our owner last week or in the last 3 years, he still would have been forwards and going in for this Super League without a shadow of a doubt. I have that, and I know that. Pablo says, please remember, love Arsenal, hate Usmanov. Yeah, remember those banners. My banner would be down with that sort of thing. It's reusable. Always got to laugh. Kelly says, is there an agenda for Arsenal to lose? I see that a lot of people want us to lose just to blame AFTV. It's a good point. I wanted to talk about this. If you haven't seen the video from TalkSport this morning where Ray Parlour interrogated Robbie. Now, I put a tweet out this morning. I personally am not the biggest fan of AFTV. It's not down to the negativity of it. It's not down to that side of things. I have my own personal reasons from interactions as to why I'm not the biggest fan of AFTV. However, what happens with Ray Parlour this morning was a joke. This was a chance for Robbie on TalkSport to talk about the owner, to put pressure on the owner, for Ray Parlour to ask questions to Robbie about the owner. And instead of that, what happened was he used the opportunity to try and have a go hypocritically at a fan channel for getting more views during periods where we lose games. I'm sorry, but no matter your view of Arsenal Fan TV, be it good, be it bad, be it whatever, and this is coming from a person who has his own reservations about my communications with the platform, that it's when a team loses or when something loses, it's going to create drama. It's going to create anger, because one thing that's associated with football is the passion of the fans and the anger that is associated with losing games. That is then going to create drama. Humans naturally love drama. They're drawn to it. They drink it in, drama. Absolutely. And so it's unsurprising that more views or more clicks on websites or more listens or more viewership or whatever is drawn from when there's losses, when there's anger, when there's drama. It's just part and parcel of it. And as a businessman, on the business side of things, you might turn around and say, yeah, great, we've racked in loads of views on those things. But as a supporter, as a fan, Robbie does not want Arsenal to lose. I don't want Arsenal to lose. I just don't. I'm an Arsenal fan. So is he. And as an ex-Arsenal player and as an Arsenal fan, I'm really disappointed in Ray that he was asking and he took those opportunities. And I hope he realises that he's made a mistake in doing that. I really do. I'm not going to abuse the man. I'm not going to call him names for asking those questions. I just hope that Ray Parlour turns around and realises why he was wrong. Ultimately, it's just, and the thing is that TalkSport as a platform, speaking as someone I've worked for TalkSport, I was working with Hugh Izzy on the build up to the World Cup in 2018 on the platform as a freelancer. I've worked at TalkSport. They would get more clicks, more views if things go dramatous, if there is more to talk about. And that's a real shame, because this week there was a really good opportunity to get some really good open discussion about the Arsenal ownership, and they failed at that. It failed. So I really hope that they reflect and they look at it and they go, yeah, you know what? We hold our hands up. We missed an opportunity to talk about the Super League and the ownership, and instead we went for the drama, we went for the views, and yeah, I'm hoping it's backfired. It looks like it has, because they've received a hell of a lot of criticism. Unfortunately, the irony is that criticism, the same way that the negativity is brewed from when Arsenal lose on all channels, there is a lot more negativity. That will be great for the platform. That will be absolutely wonderful, because it's the way the world works. It's just how it works. It's just how it happens. When there's negativity, it's what's drawn from it. It's a really big problem. And whilst at certain times maybe there is the opportunity for that discussion to be had, it doesn't matter. The timing was wrong, and that was what was wrong with it. That is what was wrong with it. Masters Weekend says, have some respect for an Arsenal legend, Ray Parlour, you fools. First of all, Masters, I'm going to time you out because I don't agree with you insulting anyone on the show, but I will respond to your question. In regards to the respect of Ray Parlour, you can have respect for someone and you can still criticise their actions. That is the face. That's the same with Arsenal footballers. Is that I love Arsenal. I love watching them now and again. It's a challenge sometimes. But the thing is that I can still be critical of the players. I can still be critical of people's opinions. And I can be critical of doing that without abusing them. You don't lose respect. It's not about abusing someone or calling them names or calling them an idiot, etc., or worse names because you disagree with them. It's about being critical of that. And I am critical of Ray Parlour's way that he questioned and chose to question Robbie in that moment. It was a real big shame. A really big shame. They invited Robbie on for a chat, and I'm sure that when he came on, and you could tell from the conversation that it was not about it. I'm sure Robbie was not pre-alluded to knowing that he was going to be talking about the Super League and Kroenke and the protests. Not going to be defending himself in that moment. It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. Anyway, we've reached the halfway point of the video, which does mean we're going to reveal which one of our members has won the free ticket into today's draw. I'm also then going to send our man on the ground at the protest a link into the show after that. And fingers crossed we can get some live coverage from the protest. That's going to be good. So make sure you stick around for that. If it happens, no promises, but fingers crossed it will. So we have got 23 entries into the competition. Let me just share the screen with you guys so you can see it. I'm going to click this 5 times, and the person with number the 5th number that comes up will win the free entry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It is number 13. It clicked up 13 on the 14th and the 15th. So wow, you got double lucky. And number 13, which is usually a very unlucky number, it's Alf Nelson. Congratulations to Alf. You have won the prize for the free entry into this week's competition. So congratulations to you. You have won the free ticket into this week's draw. So congratulations, mate. And what you will be winning a free entry into is a draw to win a signed photo frame by the famous back four from Arsenal with Steve Bold, with Tony Adams, with Nigel Winterburn, and with Lee Dixon. And if you still want a chance to win this, the link is in the description. You can go buy yourself a ticket. There is only 17 tickets left, and there's only an hour and 58 minutes before the timer runs out. There's only 66 tickets, so you've got a 1 in 66 chance of getting it. And if you buy more tickets, you've got a better chance. So a massive thank you, of course, to our sponsors, Football Prizes. Let's get your thoughts. And also, I need to send the link to Pablo. Give me a second. Pablo is our man on the ground, and fingers crossed we're going to be able to hear some stuff from him. Join when ready, mate. When there. Okay, so hopefully Pablo will join us at some point, and we can hear from him, the man on the ground. Let's see what you guys are saying anyway in the meantime about about the whole Robbie and Ray Parlour thing and what you guys were saying. No Sleep says Ray Parlour is starting to try to stay relevant. I'm not necessarily if that was true. I think that he has his own personal views about it. That's the problem. Thank you ever so much, Zlatko. I really appreciate your comment, mate. Dunko says AFTV are definitely the reason why Arsenal drew 1-1 against Fulham. Oh, yeah, 100%. I do find it a little bit ridiculous that any channels are blamed at all, ever. And I know I'm coming from the perspective of someone who is, of course, a content creator, but still, I do find it a bit ridiculous. Omar says, I don't agree with Tom's view on the manager, but I've never abused him. Maybe, and that's me and the manager, maybe Mr. Masters should do the same. Exactly. If you disagree with someone's view, that's fine, but just respect it. Come back to it. You don't need to go into this effectively at the end of the day. No Sleep says there is one antidote to AFTV, and that's winning trophies. Dunkno says people seriously need to get a grip and stop blaming AFTV. Morris says Ray Parlour is a disgrace to the legendhood. I mean, I think you're going a bit far, personally. I don't think it's right to be calling him a disgrace. I think you should be questioning what he says in a respectful way, to be honest. Theo says, you are pro Kroenke. I'm certainly not. I want Kroenke out 100%. Absolutely no doubt about it. Kroenke out all the way. Thank you, Ben, for the donation, mate. Much appreciate. Always respect that for the channel, and always. Yannick says, TGT has correspondence now. If anyone should have gone after it, should have been TGT after this influx of revenue. Pablo's the man on the ground. Fingers crossed that he's going to be able to join at some point in the next 20 minutes. I can't promise it because obviously if you think about the fact when you're in a ground at a stadium, the signal around the Emirates is awful. So it might not work. It's something we're trying. We'll see if it works. We'll see if it won't. Niles says, lost complete respect for Ray now. I don't care if he was informed to conduct himself like that. It's appalling from a legend. James says, Tom, Ray Parlour is now getting cussed now by our fan base for a difference of opinion. I think that's wrong. He's done more for the club than Robbie has. Yeah, James, I think it's a good point what you raised, and I'm not supporting any abuse towards Ray Parlour. What I would say is there's nothing wrong with questioning him and saying, look, Ray, I don't agree with what you did, and I said that on my Twitter today. I disagreed with him. If you're sending abuse to him, you need to get your head on straight, because that's ultimately wrong, and you shouldn't be acting in that way. If you want to say things like he's a disgrace, I don't agree with that, that's wrong. If you want to call him names, it's wrong. If you want to say, look, Ray, I don't agree with you saying that to Robbie, that's fine. Absolutely. But you need to be careful about how you act and how you portray yourself. Gary says, did AFTV stop paying for Parlour's drinks or something? Surprised when he has been on the channel before. Another thing, it was weird that he has been on the channel and said certain things. There's a little. I mean, Lee Judges, our good friend Judges, has got a picture with the guy, and he recognised him from the channel. So I don't really know why that is the case. It's a really, really strange one. Danny says, Ray versus Robbie. Ray is right, but there is a time and place for this, and that was not the time or place. Perfectly summed up, Danny. And this is the thing. What Ray was actually asking Robbie about this is, sure, that's definitely something that's worth a discussion. I don't really personally agree with a lot of it, but that's the problem. I'm really hoping now that we've got Pablo on the line.
Can you guys hear me okay?
You can, mate.
Yeah? Well, I've just literally, you guys are going to experience exactly what I'm experiencing because I've literally just walked through myself. And I'm going to just turn the camera around if I figure out how to do that.
Just literally turn it, mate.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so I'm about to go up myself to go and have a look, but looks like a pretty good turnout, and it's not even 6 o'clock yet.
Yeah, how many people would you estimate are really there at the moment, Pablo?
I would say, let me just go up the steps here quickly. It should take a couple of minutes. But
we'll say if anyone hears the unfortunate language, we apologise.
Yeah, it's out of my control, that one. I just saw an 8-year-old. Deafening and blinding, so
oh, Jesus.
The pub's all pretty much full. Couldn't get a pint. Couldn't get a pint before coming here, so very disappointed. But yeah, I'd say there's easily a couple of thousand here by the looks of it, from what I've seen all downstairs and everything. So just going up now.
Mate.
I'm gonna turn the camera around for you. Hold on. Sorry about the poor filming there, guys.
Pablo, if you turn your phone sideways, it should turn it sideways.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
So yeah, this is where it's all happening. So let's hope.
So you reckon there's about 1,000 people there right now?
Right now, yeah, and there's going to be a lot more coming in for sure. I mean, like I say, the pubs are all completely full. I've got a few mates that still haven't arrived yet. Got a few familiar faces you're seeing around. So yeah, I think everything's going to be busy.
Nice, mate. How long are you planning on staying there?
Till 8 o'clock, mate.
Yeah.
All the way through. Yeah, nice. I don't know where I'm going to watch the game though, because travelling back to Ashford, I'll end up missing most of the game. But I'll see if I can find somewhere to find a game to watch.
Yeah,
oh, look,
that's great.
I've just been handed one of these.
There you go. Fantastic. Kroenke out. Fantastic stuff. Really good, mate. I mean, Pablo, if you can actually end up being able to speak to anyone there, like if you can grab a fan or something that's nearby.
Yeah, sure. I mean, let me see someone here. This guy here's got an Arsenal top on. Sorry, mate. Are you all right to do just a quick interview? We're live on TGT, the Gooner Talk.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah? Okay, well, I'm going to try and sort of put a camera on this gentleman.
Do you give him the earphone, Pablo?
Talk through there.
Yeah,
he's got it.
Hello, mate. Here, Tom from the Gooner Talk here. Just give me your thoughts and feelings about where you are right now and what's going on.
I mean, it's just an outpouring of frustration at this point. I mean, you know, how long have we had to put up with this? I mean, all these promises about moving to the Emirates, you know, we're going to be competing with the elite clubs. It's just a massive joke. And I mean, I think, you know, everyone, what's happened on last weekend, beginning of this week, the Super League, it's just pushed a load of fans over the edge, and it's really put the spotlight back on Kroenke now and the owners. It's just, you know.
What do you think in regards
the process
to,
is so important. We're speaking our voice today, and hopefully we can bring about some more change.
The realistic, obviously, outcome of this is that the Kroenkes are very obviously, they don't really want to sell right now, and it's unlikely that they will sell. So with that in the minds of us that we don't think they're actually going to sell, what is the kind of the whole ambition from this protest, knowing that the unlikelihood is that they're not going to sell?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you know, who's going to come in and buy it. But, you know, think we've had enough. I mean, you know, we've got to at least bring about some change, even if, you know, even if by virtue of us doing this, it encourages, you know, someone to at least put some pressure on them to go and spend some money and bring about some change. You know, we've got to do something. We can't just keep going on like we are. We're having a terrible season. If we're out of the Europa League, you know, it's going to be one of our worst seasons in years. So, you know, we've got to do something, and, you know, that's why this is so important.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I'll let you get back to it.
Can you hear it?
No.
Tom, we can't hear you.
That's fine. I just said I said appreciate your time, mate. Really appreciate it, and I'll let you get back to it.
Oh, there you go. Can hear you now.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers,
Thank you for
Pablo.
that. Appreciate it. So, yeah, so you can see everybody's got the same point of view here. And I think this is the most united I've seen the Arsenal fans in years.
Mate. I mean,
that's all right, mate.
I really
Anytime.
appreciate you doing this, mate. I'll let you get back to it, and I'm sure you're going to send us through some photos and videos.
Right, I'll catch you guys later. Oh, 100%. 100%. You'll get them all sent to you, Tom.
Brilliant.
I'll see you soon.
Mate. Have a good one. Well, there you go. There's Pablo live from the protest. We did say to you, I'd do my best to get you some live footage, and there you go. We got an interview with a fan that was there as well. I mean, if you subscribe for this type of content, there you go. Pablo and of course Tom O, our regular podcaster, is also going to be there a little bit later on. We're going to get them to take some photos and some videos, and we're going to hopefully put some stuff together to give you guys. Because I know there's a lot of you that are abroad that aren't here or aren't able, and even in the UK that aren't able to actually get to the protest today. So we are going to get as much content as we can together, put it together, and hopefully create a video that will be out over the weekend for you guys to enjoy, because I know that there's plenty of you that are abroad or away from London that would have loved to be able to be at that protest, but aren't able to. I should also say there's no watch along with me and Hugh this evening, because Hugh is also, as far as I'm aware, making his way down there, or not actually 100% sure. He said he was going to try to be there, but there's no watch along tonight. But there will be a raw reaction straight after the game, so make sure you tune in for that. We're going to wrap things up there. We'll finish on that amazing insight from the Kroenke out protest. Really fantastic stuff from Pablo. I would appreciate if you want to find Pablo on Twitter to give him some love for that. Let me just go and find him on Twitter, and you can give him a follow and give him a DM and say thank you ever so much for giving us that insight. He's on Twitter at Pablo Mira, MIRA11. It's like Pablo Marie, just the other way around. So Pablo Mira on Twitter, Pablo Mira 11. You find him there. A massive appreciation. He's one of our members on the channel. Really, really good stuff. Really appreciate if you could drop a like on the video to get the insight from the protest too. We will see you really later on this evening. We'll talk about the game. We're going to talk about everything there too. And as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners, and Kroenke out.